Doomscroll by Dennis Gomez. Narrated by Conor Lewis. It was a day like the one before it, and the one before that. It was the time before his bedtime, but right after his dinner time. Chris was scrolling through the Seed social media feed on his phone. He was curled up on his couch, still in his work clothes. All the lights in the house were off, but the glow of his cell phone screen was enough to light up the whole room. He was depressed. Life had been taking a toll on him. From the stress of raising his kids, his job, and the daily battle of the sexes with his wife, he felt alone. It was now a common feeling to him. He felt like he was not really a part of anything. He was hoping his beloved cell phone would help fill that void. Strangely, every night he found himself doing this very same ritual with the very same result: loneliness. He was aware of the unhealthy relationship he had with his phone, but he could not help himself. The usual suspects all came up on his feed: cute babies with drool-crusted smiles, somebody's dinner that was so great that it needed to be captured and placed on the World Wide Web, just in case aliens visited the Earth years from now and demanded to know what was important to humans. The mindlessness of the feed could knock anyone into a coma. To be a responsible human, Chris began liking intellectual pages: NASA, Science of the Day, Strange History, Philosophy Today. He was hoping to skew his personal algorithm to the point that he would be showered in knowledge and not brain-damaging garbage. Hopefully, he would never have to endure another picture of a French bulldog that looks like a celebrity ever showing its furry little face on his phone again. Unfortunately, some pseudoscience pages began to creep into his feed. It soon became abundantly clear that his plan was not working. The baby pictures were growing in number rather than dwindling. As always, nothing was turning out the way he wanted. It goes to show you can never trust an algorithm. Another thing that started to invade his feed was clickbait. Oh, clickbait. How society loves and despises you. You give us information that we did not know we wanted or needed. You show us very important things, such as what did Abraham Lincoln look like when he was a child? Why does a dress look both gold and purple at the same time? How can society get these hours back? Time is like a candle when you start interacting with your cell phone. Seconds drip away into minutes that drip into hours. Soon the whole night is gone, never to return. This time-sucking clickbait led him down a rabbit hole of odd and interesting stories. Of course, he would never remember any of this information in the morning. As he dozed off with his phone in his hand, it fell to the ground with a loud thump. The sound of the thump woke him up. He picked up the phone and he dozed off again. This time, the phone rewarded his unabashed addiction by landing right square in his face. Usually, he would get up and put himself in bed, rubbing the small bruise on his face. However, this night would be different. Around 11 p.m, Chris found himself on a page discussing the unknown and paranormal. Something in his brain stopped him from scrolling any further. He had stopped on a top 10 list of books that could not be translated. He loved history and mystery. He found both things with this page, so he knew that this is how he would be spending the rest of his night. First on the list was a book called The King's Manuscript. The book was said to be passed among kings and thieves for generations. It was said to hold the secret location of the Holy Grail. The book was written in some archaic dialect that no one could decipher. Chris thought to himself, "Wow, what a find!" He was excited by the idea of kings hiding this manuscript from people for ages. He would continue to fling down the book page mindlessly with his thumb. He thought that he had still been scrolling through the page, but his thumb had stopped on a specific book. It was as if his finger refused to move any further. He had landed on book number 6 on the list, named Nightfall. The name instantly piqued his interest. He did not know why, but the mention of it brought an adrenaline rush that began to upset his stomach. He knew that his body was warning him of something. The fact he actually felt any feeling was amazing. He disregarded the internal warning system developed long ago to protect humanity from those things that would do us harm. After some internal dialogue, he convinced himself that he only felt this way because he was in the dark and he could hear the house settling. He considered himself a modern person, and such antiquated things as fear of the dark did not belong in the modern world. So, he continued to ignore his internal warning system. Apparently, this book known as Nightfall had a sordid past. That's why the story made it onto this clickbait list to begin with. It was found by a man of science employed by the Emperor of the Eastern Roman Empire after it had split from the Western Territory. The man of science discovered the book in a structure that had been buried for decades. He had been looking for some sort of plant to add to a herbology book he had been working on. He had accidentally fallen down a long-buried well and discovered an old temple. The entrance to the temple was filled with bones wearing armour from different historical time periods. Roman legion helmets, ancient Egyptian weapons, and other unknown ancient armour and weapons. It appeared that all of these renowned warriors had somehow found themselves together to meet their final end. The narrator stated that he even found a cloth that appeared to belong to a caveman. The article stated that all of the gear had been disintegrating at a much slower rate than it should have been. Was there a mysterious power coming from the cave? A couple of years ago, samples were taken from the bits of armour, and testing had been done to authenticate all of it. The story went on about details of the cave, and something about a magnetic anomaly. Chris kept waking himself up, not realising that he had fallen asleep. This led to his subconscious having some very deep thoughts on this Nightfall manuscript. As he was fading out into sleep once again, he looked at his screen, and the unintelligible writing on the cover of the book appeared to wiggle and move. In his mind, he giggled. And then something happened that mentally shocked him to the point of being fully awake. The writing moved together and formed two words.
Greetings, Chris.
He dropped his phone on his face with a thud. Chris winced with pain, grabbing his face as the phone continued to fall to the floor with a second thud. He rolled off the couch and onto the floor. Landing on his knees, he grabbed for the phone, half dropping it and picking it up again and again a couple of times. The screen should have gone black from the 30-second timer. Instead, the screen was glowing more intensely than it ever had. A mysterious-looking cursor was blinking in what should have been the comments section of the story. Normally, a comment section would have been filled with trolls' wonderful wit. Instead, the blinking cursor was all alone without any messages around it. Chris found the repeating strobe of the cursor very hypnotizing. He felt the nefarious cursor was inviting him to respond back to the mysterious greeting that had somehow shown up on his screen. That feeling of apprehension filled him again, and the hair on the back of his neck began to stand up. This time, he was more open to the warning. He carefully touched the keys of the small keyboard, as if the keys were all teeth in a shark's mouth. He thought to himself that he must have been hacked by some Russians. He thought that this fear was rational, but his fear peaked at an irrational level. "Who is this?" he typed, half expecting the phone to ring and scare him literally to death. It did not ring. A simple response returned to the screen.
I'm here to ask you questions.
Instantly, Chris knew it was his work friends pulling a prank on him. "Okay, Scott," he typed. "Enough, man. I have to go to work tomorrow." The response to his question was quick, almost as if the phone was speaking to him.
This is not Scott. This is Nightfall.
Chris dropped the phone again, repeating the loud thud that had previously happened. He then proceeded to run around the house and turn on every light. He turned on the TV, which was the most rational thing possible, and put the channel on the news.
Hello and welcome to
He was
tonight's
sure
show.
that this would stimulate him enough to wake him up from this crazy dream he was having. It did not. Unfortunately for him, he was awake. He crept over to his phone, sneaking up to it like it was waiting to reach out and grab him. The screen had moved up a couple of lines, and it had more writing.
My real name you cannot pronounce. The last beings that could have long perished. They had the honor of feeding my hunger.
Chris saw that there was even more writing appearing as he read the phone screen. Somehow, the writing entry did not cause the phone to ding. It was more organic? It was like a blooming flower, like every word was destined to be there, revealing truths that seemed to stretch back to the beginning of time itself. The writing was forming within the picture of the manuscript, ebbing and shifting like grains of sand. Chris thought to himself, this thing was a bot of some kind. The screen instantly answered him as if reading his mind, killing the thin theory that would have saved his sanity right there and then. He fell back into his chair. The writing began to morph again.
I have been around for 10,056 Earth reformations. That numbers in eons of time as humans understand reality.
Chris typed, Reformations? You mean when a big bang happens and the universe exists from beginning to end?
Yes. Chris, have you ever wondered why alien life had not been found? Think about it. Your universe has been around for 14 billion years. There must be some space-faring civilization somewhere in this universe of billions of planets and galaxies.
Chris typed, Yes, I believe there are aliens. The letters on the screen blew away like sand. Nothing showed on the screen for a moment. Then writing appeared again, this time at a faster tempo.
I have systematically destroyed and fed on every life form in this galaxy. Humanity is the last existing life. The bindings created to keep me trapped are almost down.
His mind could not comprehend the information he was processing. He flipped his phone onto its face. The lights in his house started dimming and brightening. He instantly picked up the phone. He knew that the lights were connected with the phone itself. The screen began to glow a red hue that scares him to his bones. More writing appeared on the screen.
I am not done talking to you. You will listen.
Chris felt obliged to listen, since the prospect of an ancient being threatening him was more than his brain could comprehend at the moment. Chris was wishing that he would have clicked a fails video, but it was too late for that now. Instantly, he saw visions of unknown places and beings going about their lives. Then, he saw the places bathed in red. Then every living thing in each of the visions was gone, except for dirt and rocks. He felt sadness well up inside of him for the lives that would never find a natural end. He knew then that there are things far more horrible than death.
Chris, it is almost time for the 10,057th Reformation. You are the catalyst for the end. Somehow you are connected to an energy that is currently rare in the universe. All things are made from the dust and material of the stars. This energy I speak of has been coveted by many beings that wanted to bring around the wholesale destruction of life itself.
Chris realized then that he was the only thing standing between this being and the existence of everything he or anyone else had ever known to be true. This thought was not safe, as the creature, whatever it was, had read his mind previously. Luckily for him, it appeared this ability was not on all the time. The thing had mentioned it was sealed somehow. Chris knew he was outmatched, so the best plan he could think of was to keep this thing talking while he thought of a way out of this mess. He pledged to himself then and there that he will forever be analog, if he can survive. Chris typed, How are you able to communicate with me? Again, the phone flowed with a quick response.
I am the creator of math. It is the oldest and universal of all languages. In any version of this universe.
What does that have to do with anything? Thought Chris.
All media dependent on a feed is written in algorithms based on math. These algorithms are used to target viewers' interests and likes to keep people free from seeing anything that is not familiar or that may contradict any beliefs they have. Humans of the modern age are afraid of any discomfort. They need safe spaces. This is the perfect environment for me. I am strong enough to manipulate people as I am tied to them. This is how I'm able to contact you now. Once I feed my hunger with the whole of humanity, I should have enough strength to break free from my bondage. As soon as I am free, the 10,057th Reformation shall begin. Humans are a plague on the universe, devouring critical resources of life energy, just to kill each other for some inconsequential disagreement, destroying the most important and special gift ever given, life. Life is wasted on humanity. I will be glad to help relieve them of this precious gift.
Chris's mind raced as he knew the time was near when this thing would make its big appearance. He thought that something this old must have an ego to accompany it. He thought hard about a way to make it use its power. He typed to the thing, "I must see your power. I feel that the few little tricks you have shown me tonight can be done by any 2-bit hacker." The phone began to vibrate, most likely from the vibration setting. Big, bold letters ran across the screen.
You shall pay for your insolence, human!
The television flipped channels to the finance report, and just then it was reported that the stock markets in Asia dropped to a level of a Depression-era run. Then the channel flipped back to the news channel, and it was reported that the power grid went down all across the United States, except for one house. Guess which one? Chris rolled his eyes and typed, "Is that all you can do?" Just then, every appliance connected in his modern smart house turned on at a very fast rate, and they started to smoke. Chris knew this was his only chance. He did not reach for any gun, or even call the police or military. He simply clicked the little symbol for options on the feed, and he pushed the action to unlike all websites that connected to this monstrosity. Just then, the audio on his Alejandra speaker came on like a megaphone echoing through his house saying one word. In fact, screaming it.
No!
With that sound, Chris then went to the deactivation tab and shut down his account. Everything shut off. The smoke all but cleared, the television was still on, and a breaking story flashed across the bottom of the screen. Power restored to US power grid. Stock markets in Asia miraculously corrected to morning levels. Chris tossed the speaker into the trash. The television was unplugged, never to feel the warmth of electricity again. He smashed his hub linking his smart house with a baseball bat. He turned off his phone and threw it in a dresser drawer. In the weeks that followed, he got accustomed to being without technology. Unfortunately, in a modern society, a cell phone is needed. He missed many social activities, as the invitations were sent via the feed. His parents tore into him about not being able to contact him. He felt the loneliness of being analog in a digital society. The final straw that made him start his phone up again was the fact that his kid was injured at school, and the office had no way of getting hold of him. Chris and his wife fought. Days passed. And 1 week later, he cautiously approached the drawer where he had concealed his phone. It felt as though a malevolent, sharp-clawed ancient creature lurked within, poised to devour him whole. With trembling hands, he reached into the drawer and grabbed the phone and switched it on. A profound sense of relief washed over him as nothing unusual occurred. With a reflexive exhale, he proceeded to uninstall all of his social media apps. FaceSpace, FlickTok. None of them showed any signs of activity, much to his satisfaction. Just as he was about to uninstall SnapTalk, he noticed a solitary friend request. The sender's name was 1057, and in that very moment, the sky darkened, and a vivid crimson glow enveloped everything around him. The house trembled, and amidst the chaos, Chris muttered to himself, "Fucking technology."